Good morning and welcome to News at 10 on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor. In the next half an hour, we'll get you news from India and from across the world. Well, a day after losing to the Grand Alliance, BJP's parliamentary board is meeting this afternoon to analyze the poll results in Bihar. That is going to be our big story. But let us begin with the headlines. BJP parliamentary board to meet to discuss Bihar debacle, party to introspect to find reasons for failure. Nitish Kumar hits a hat-trick in Bihar. Lalu's RJD emerges largest party. Grand Alliance stuns the BJP. Cyclone alert issued in Tamil Nadu following deep depression over Bay of Bengal. Heavy rains across several parts of the state. Schools and colleges in Chennai shut. And counting underway in historic elections in Myanmar, 80% turnout at exit polls suggest a huge majority for Aung San Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy. Well, the big story. The BJP parliamentary board will be meeting today following the debacle in Bihar Assembly elections. With this defeat coming after the Delhi loss, the party is meeting to introspect the reasons behind the loss. The party has said that they will take corrective measures following the poor showing in Bihar. PTI quotes sources in the BJP as saying that the parliamentary board, in which Prime Minister Narendra Modi is among the members, is likely to meet post-lunch to assess the party's defeat. Some BJP leaders felt that the social combination of the winning Grand Alliance could have caused NDA's defeat, even as rumblings of discontent within the party following a disastrous performance with its president Amit Shah coming under attack over the high-pitched campaign crafted by him. Shah, while conceding defeat, congratulated Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar and RJD Chief Lalu Prasad on their massive victory and said that his party respected the people's mandate. Well, the Grand Alliance of the JDU, RJD and the Congress registered a stunning win, managing more than 170 seats in the 243-member Bihar Assembly. Well, with this result, the BJP has suffered its second consecutive loss after the Delhi Assembly polls.
A one-sided result for the bitterly fought Bihar elections. The Nitish Kumar-led Grand Alliance has registered a stunning re-election in Bihar. The decision to forge an alliance between Nitish Kumar's JDU, Lalu Yadav's RJD and the Congress paying off for the Grand Alliance that comfortably bagged over 170 seats in the 243-member assembly.
बहुत बड़ी जीत है और इस जीत को हम सब लोग विनम्रता पूर्वक स्वीकार करते हैं और इस जीत में जहां लोगों का समर्थन है तो ये साफ दिखता है कि लोगों के मन में कुछ आशा है।
यदि जदयू कांग्रेस पार्टी नहीं थी, महागठबंधन जिंदाबाद लोगों ने नारा लगाया। जो एकजुटता दिखाई है, हम लोगों में कोई भी चाहेगा कि कोई फूट फाट करावे, आगे पीछे करें, हम लोग 10 समझ हिलने वाले नहीं हैं। जब हम लोगों को इतना बड़ा मैंडेट बिहार की जनता ने दिया।
While initial trends indicated a lead for the BJP, it soon reversed and the seat gap between the two alliances just kept getting wider in favour of the Nitish-Lalu combine. The Grand Alliance calling the win a vote against divisive politics.
जिस हिसाब की बीजेपी ने ओछी राजनीति करने का काम किया, जिस हिसाब की बयानबाजी उन लोगों ने देने का काम किया, जनता ने उनको सबक सिखाने का काम किया और हम लोगों में हौसला बढ़ाया है और हमारी कोशिश रहेगी कि बिहार में जो विकास हो वो हमारी प्राथमिकता होगी।
Ecstatic workers of the Grand Alliance breaking into celebration.
फैसला महागठबंधन के पक्ष में हो चुका है, या फैसला में कोई दो मत नहीं है। धान कलावताओं पर मोदी गलन हवा में। मतों से हम लोग जो मोदी जी हैं, नरेंद्र मोदी, अमित शाह का हवा उड़ गया। बिहार से गए और दिल्ली से जाएंगे। बहुत जीत रहा हूँ और गरीबों की सरकार पहली बार बन रही है लालू के नेतृत्व में। इस बार गठबंधन की सरकार और हम लोग छठ मैया को दिवाली खस के मनाने जा रहे हैं। आज से दिवाली हम लोग मनाने जा रहे हैं।
Compared to the 2010 assembly results, the BJP has lost considerably. The big gainer has been the RJD that has improved its tally vastly from 22 seats. The Congress too has managed to put up an impressive show. This defeat is a second in the row for the BJP after Delhi.
एक तो बिहार के इस नतीजे ने ये साबित कर दिया है कि इस देश के लोग नफरत की राजनीति नहीं चाहते और नफरत की राजनीति करने वालों के मुंह पे ऐसा तमाचा मारा है कि वो लोग समझ जाएं कि अब अगर दूसरी बार इन लोगों ने नफरत की राजनीति करने की कोशिश की तो इनका पूरी तरह से सफाया कर दिया जाएगा।
Regional bigwigs were also quick to congratulate Nitish Kumar on the victory. These results come ahead of a jam-packed election year in 2016. 4 states go to polls next year.
BJP loses, India wins. BJP loses, India is saved. As Mamta Di said in this morning, this is a victory for tolerance over intolerance.
Election watchers say the Bihar election result is a wake-up call of sorts for the BJP.
When Chief Election Commissioner Naseem Zaidi said that Bihar election is the mother of all elections, well, he wasn't too wrong. The Bihar outcome will set the tone and tenor of political discourse in the country. The biggest challenge for the Grand Alliance is to propel Bihar on the path of development, while many say it's time for the BJP to realign its strategy. Reporting from New Delhi, I'm Kriti Mishra for Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar, the man overwhelmingly re-elected to office for another term, has been recognized as a pro-development messiah in his last 2 innings as the Bihar Chief Minister and during his stint at the centre. Besides, of course, the shrewd political acumen that enabled him to bounce back into reckoning. Here is a profile of Bihar's re-elected Chief Minister.
Bihar's man of the moment, Nitish Kumar, elected Chief Minister for a 3rd consecutive term. This time he sweeps to power in alliance with Lalu Prasad Yadav, the two sinking differences to revive an alliance that began over 40 years ago. The Mahagathbandhan, including the JDU, RJD and Congress, readies to take the reins.
ये बिहार के लोगों की जीत है, बिहार की भावना की जीत, ये बिहार के स्वाभिमान की जीत है और महागठबंधन ने बहुत ही एकजुटता के साथ अपना काम किया है। इसलिए जो भी परिणाम है वह महागठबंधन को स्पष्ट समर्थन देने का जनता के द्वारा उसका द्योतक है।
Nitish Kumar's victory stands out all the more, for it emerged out of lows of just a year and a half back. Having won just 2 seats to Parliament from Bihar in the 2014 Lok Sabha elections, Kumar was down and out. He stepped down and handed over the reins to Jitan Ram Manjhi. Months later, having snatched back his seat from Manjhi, he agreed to join hands with arch-rival RJD boss Lalu Prasad Yadav to take on the Modi juggernaut. The so-called Chanakya of Bihar politics was on the rise again. Nitish Kumar was elected to the Bihar Assembly for the first time in 1985 after having lost twice. After winning the 1989 Lok Sabha polls from Bar, he shifted focus to Delhi, getting elected to Parliament in 1991, 1996, 1998 and 1999. Kumar became Minister of State for Agriculture in the Atal Bihari Vajpayee government and then briefly Railway Minister in 1999. As Railways Minister between 2001 and 2004, he was credited with introducing several reforms in the public sector behemoth like internet ticket booking and Tatkal system of instant booking. Nitish Kumar was elected Chief Minister of Bihar for the first time in 2005. In Bihar, he has been recognized for improving law and order, including reducing theft and curbing kidnappings for ransom. His government improved healthcare and encouraged education of women. Analysts say besides development, it is Kumar's personal image that has made him popular among the state's voters.
इसलिए इस चुनाव में इनको साफ बता देना है कि बिहार में आप लोगों की दाल नहीं गलेगी, वैसे भी दाल बहुत महंगा हो गया।
Perhaps the most keenly watched aspect of Nitish Kumar's political career has been his distancing himself from Narendra Modi, sparked by the Godhra train burning incident of 2002. The growing divide between the two and the final BJP-JDU split after Modi was chosen prime ministerial candidate in 2014 put him on his own at war with Modi. And just that was at the center of the fight in this election.
इस राज्य में कानून और व्यवस्था की हालत इतनी खराब हो कि जहां का चुनाव राज्य सरकार ऑर्डिनेंस जारी करके टाल दे, दूसरे राज्य में उसी राज्य के मुख्यमंत्री रहे हैं माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी 12 साल तक, यहाँ करके करते हैं जंगल राज, और जहाँ कानून व्यवस्था की हालत इतनी बुरी है, कभी कर्फ्यू लग रहा है, कभी गोली चल रही है, पंचायत का चुनाव टल गया, उसको कहते हैं मंगल राज।
This election victory comes with its limitations on the freedom of his functioning. Nitish has a powerful alliance partner in Lalu Prasad, who will likely want a big say in government. Shackles he will need to be wary of as he sets about keeping development promises. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, the NDA accepted the heavy defeat, which came despite topping the chart with the most vote share by a single party. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was among several leaders who congratulated Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar for the resounding victory. The alliance accepted the defeat as a setback.
The scene in the morning was different to what the day had in store. BJP appeared confident that it will win the Bihar contest.
मेरा पूरा आत्मविश्वास है, जमीनी हकीकत के साथ है। मैं लालू जी की तरह हवाई नहीं कह रहा हूं कि 190, लेकिन एनडीए की स्पष्ट बहुमत के साथ सरकार।
But by afternoon, it was crystal clear that the Grand Alliance is set to sweep Bihar. Prime Minister Narendra Modi telephoned Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar and congratulated him. Modi was among the top NDA leaders to accept the defeat. While allies were taken aback by the unexpected margin of defeat, BJP refused to put the blame solely on the PM, who led the party's campaign with nearly 30 rallies.
बिहार की जनता ने महागठबंधन को स्पष्ट जनादेश दिया है। हम उस जनादेश के सामने अपना सर झुकाते हैं, उसका सम्मान करते हैं। तो हम सरकार को विकास के कार्यों में हम पूरी मदद करेंगे और एक रचनात्मक विपक्ष की भूमिका का और हम निर्वाह करेंगे। सभी लोगों ने पूरी ताकत से प्रयास किया और इसलिए कोई एक व्यक्ति या दो व्यक्ति किसी जीत और हार के लिए जिम्मेवार नहीं होता है।
सबसे पहले तो मैं नीतीश कुमार जी को बधाई देता हूं, लालू जी को बधाई देता हूं कि जो प्रदर्शन उनके गठबंधन ने किया, ईमानदारी की बात है। हम लोग भी इतना बेहतर प्रदर्शन महागठबंधन करेगा, हम लोग मान के चल रहे थे कि हाँ हम लोग की फाइट है, नेक टू नेक रह सकता है मामला, पर इतना बेहतर महागठबंधन प्रदर्शन करेगा हम लोग को भी इस बात की, ईमानदारी से बोल रहा हूँ, स्पष्ट बोलता हूँ, हम लोग को इस बात की उम्मीद नहीं थी।
जनता ने किस कारण से बिहार के लिए वो उपयुक्त नहीं माना और क्यों हमारे बातों को जितनी गंभीरता से लेना चाहिए हम सोचते हैं वैसा नहीं लिया गया, इसको सारे आंकड़े सामने रखने के बाद और रीजन वाइज बातों को भी हम ध्यान में रखने के बाद ही हम कुछ कह सकते हैं।
BJP's parliamentary board is likely to meet on Monday to analyze the outcome in Bihar. The board is likely to examine all the aspects and factors leading to the party's below par performance. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, while the NDA partners conceded defeat, one of the key alliance partners, Shiv Sena, came out with a stinging reaction. In an apparent reference to Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Sena said that the election results denote the decline of a leader. The party said Modi should take responsibility for the massive defeat in Bihar since he led the campaign from the front and from the beginning. Well, according to Sena, the verdict in Bihar will usher in a change in national politics, calling Nitish Kumar a hero for defying exit poll predictions to win the Bihar polls. The party went a step further and said that if elections were to be held in Maharashtra now, similar results will emerge. BJP and Shiv Sena saw strains and ties recently over its protest against hosting Pak dignitaries in Maharashtra.
हार नेता का पराभव होता है तो नेता ने स्वीकार करना चाहिए, जैसे हम भी स्वीकार करते हैं।
सो मंथन करने की जरूरत है बीजेपी को इस पर?
नहीं, उनको कोई मंथन करने की जरूरत नहीं, वो बहुत होशियार है लोग, आप देख रहे हैं महाराष्ट्र में। लेकिन मैं इतना ही कहूंगा कि बिहार के जो नतीजे अब आए हैं ना, महाराष्ट्र के भी नतीजे वैसे आएंगे। आप अभी चुनाव ले लो।
मुझे इस बात की बहुत तकलीफ है, हालांकि तकलीफ के साथ साथ ये भी कहना चाहूंगा कि मुझे राइटिंग ऑन द वॉल दिखाई पड़ रहा था। मुझको तो बातें समझ में आ गई थी। मैंने कोशिश भी की अपनी पार्टी को समझाने की, बताने की। ये वक्त जो है जख्मों को कुरेदने का नहीं है, बल्कि ये वक्त है जख्मों पे मरहम लगाने का। और मैं मरहम लगाने की घड़ी में कहना चाहूंगा कि हम लोग अपने को और तैयार करें और मजबूत करें, तो यकीनन हम बहुत शानदार तरीके से सामने आ सकते हैं और ये हार हमारी आखिरी हार हो सकती है।
Well, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi reacted sharply to the BJP's defeat, saying it is a vote against divisiveness. He asked PM Modi to realize the promises that he has made to the country.
पहले मैं महागठबंधन के कार्यकर्ताओं को और नेताओं को बधाई देना चाहता हूं। नीतीश जी, लालू जी, कांग्रेस पार्टी के हमारे सब नेता, कांग्रेस पार्टी के कार्यकर्ता, नीतीश जी और लालू जी के कार्यकर्ता, ये एक प्रकार से सच्चाई की जीत है, भाईचारे की जीत है। गुस्से के ऊपर, बंटवारे के ऊपर, घमंड के ऊपर, क्रोध के ऊपर ये एक बहुत बड़ी जीत हमने हासिल की है।
Well, the Bihar election results have dealt a huge blow to the BJP's hope to improving its tally in the Rajya Sabha. All eyes are now on how it will affect the government's economic agenda. The former Finance Minister P. Chidambaram says the government can use the opportunity to reach out to the opposition and get legislative business moving in the upper house.
What will the NDA's massive defeat in the Bihar Assembly elections mean for the government's economic agenda? The BJP started the year with a huge electoral loss in Delhi. It's ending 2015 with another equally crushing defeat in Bihar.
There will be issues on the agenda, reforms, economic reform. We are talking of GST, we are talking of other FDI issues. All those issues will take a backseat in my view.
I feel will not have any impact on center other than that for 1 week or two, people will feel low, business will feel low, and then they will forget about it. Life must continue.
Among the bills that are stuck in the Rajya Sabha is the constitutional amendment bill to implement the common goods and service tax regime across the country. Lok Sabha cleared the bill last year. Former Finance Minister P. Chidambaram accuses the BJP of arbitrarily opposing the GST during the UPA regime. On the other hand, he claims his party's opposition to the GST is based on a specific objection. On the other hand, the loss could even nudge the government to take a reconciliatory approach towards the opposition. In fact, last week, Congress leader Digvijay Singh had asked the BJP government to open discussions on passing these economic bills in the winter session. Krishnanand Tripathi's report for Rajya Sabha Television.
Now, there are reports that the Cabinet Committee on Parliamentary Affairs is likely to meet today to decide the date for the winter session of Parliament. Well, the government is pitching for a passage of a host of reforms, legislations, including the GST bill. The winter session usually begins in the third week of December. But with the last session a virtual washout, the government is keen to take up important legislations passed in Parliament like the GST bill, the land bill, the real estate regulation and development bill and the negotiable instruments arbitration bill. Well, the winter session will happen, remember, in the backdrop of BJP suffering a massive defeat in Bihar, which has further emboldened the opposition. News at 10. We'll take a very short break. We'll be back with more news. Stay with us. Well, news from down south. Well, a high alert has been issued in Tamil Nadu following a deep depression in the Bay of Bengal. A cyclone is expected to hit the state's coast. Now, heavy rains have lashed several parts of the state and fishermen have been advised not to venture into the sea.
There's a cyclone alert for Tamil Nadu as heavy rains lashed several parts of the state following a deep depression over the Bay of Bengal, which intensified on Saturday.
The morning's depression over Southeast Bay has moved west-northwestwards and now lies 300 kilometers east-southeast of Puducherry. It is likely to move in a west-northwest direction and intensify further. In next 12 hours, we expect it to become a deep depression, possibly a cyclone storm also later.
The Met Department has also predicted more downpour and thunder showers for the state. The entire state has been put on high alert. Meanwhile, most of the schools and colleges in Chennai have been shut in view of the heavy rainfall in the coastal district. Fishermen have been advised not to venture out to sea in the next 24 to 48 hours as the sea will be rough to very rough. Koilandi in Kozhikode district in Kerala received highest rainfall during the last 48 hours, recording 13 centimeters, while Papanasam in Tirunelveli district in Tamil Nadu and Karkala in Udupi district of Karnataka recorded 5 centimeters each of rainfall. Moreover, the current wet spell in southern states under the influence of the active northeast monsoon would continue, as the Met Office had earlier forecasted that the thunder showers in several parts of the southern states, especially in coastal Tamil Nadu, will remain for the next few days. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And in more news from Tamil Nadu, well, the Sri Lankan Navy has damaged 30 fishing nets of Indian fishermen who were fishing in between Kach Island and Kakra inland of the Rameshwaram coast. Well, on Sunday, about 500 boats registered in the Fisheries Department for fishing, but less than 400 boats went for fishing. The Lankan Navy chased about 30 boats which were fishing near the Kach Island and damaged their nets. Fishermen were also chased by the Lankan Navy from that point. And India has strongly condemned Nepal's Deputy Prime Minister's allegations that it is trying to disintegrate Nepal and annex the Terai region. India has said that such baseless and malicious comments vitiate the age-old historical and familial ties between the two nations. The Indian embassy in Kathmandu in a statement reiterated that India's only objective is peace, stability and prosperity in Nepal. India hopes that internal issues facing the country will be resolved through political dialogue and reconciliation. India will support all efforts in this regard, it said. Condemning Deputy Prime Minister C.P. Manali's statement, it said that the embassy strongly condemns such baseless and malicious comments which divert attention from the real issues facing the country and vitiate the age-old historical, familial and civilizational ties between India and Nepal. Veteran communist leader Manali during a media interaction had said that the blockade of key border trade points with India, which is led by Indian origin Madheshis, was part of Indian conspiracy to annex the Terai region by disintegrating it from the rest of the country with the one Maldives, one Madhes, one Pradesh demand. Well, India will flight test its surface-to-surface missile capable of carrying nuclear warheads Agni-4 from the Wheeler Island of Odisha today. Agni-4 has been tested 4 times earlier, of which, except for the first, all the subsequent launches have been successful. The scheduled test of Agni-4 and AAD interceptor missile were deferred last month, apprehending their impact on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's foreign tour. And what else is lined up for the day? Let's take a look in day ahead. Aam Aadmi Party convener and Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal will inaugurate the first Aam Aadmi Polyclinic. He will inaugurate the clinic in northeast Delhi's Ghangi Nagar area. Kejriwal announced setting up of these polyclinics across Delhi in his election manifesto. A Delhi court will hear a plea filed by Himachal Pradesh Chief Minister Veerbhadra Singh in the disproportionate assets case. Veerbhadra accused CBI of not furnishing the complete copy of the FIR registered against him and others in the DA case. In an application filed before the court, Singh said that the CBI should be directed to file a complete copy of the FIR in court. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will meet US President Barack Obama to discuss security aid to his country. Netanyahu will lay out the grounds for US military support to Israel for the next decade when he meets Obama. He's on a 4-day visit to Washington and will mark the first meeting between the two leaders since Netanyahu's controversial address on Iran to the US Congress that strained relations between the two. The European interior ministers will hold an emergency meet today in Brussels on migrant crisis. Finance Minister of the European Union countries are also holding a 2-day meeting. Now, thousands of migrants from across the war-torn Middle East have been reaching European nations to seek asylum. And the big international story now. Well, counting is underway in Myanmar after the country voted in historic elections on Sunday. Well, Myanmar's election commission registered 80% voter turnout. Voting was largely peaceful. Exit polls suggest a huge majority for Aung San Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy. Final results are expected later today.
Counting of ballots began immediately after the polls closed on Sunday in Myanmar, country's first credible election in 25 years. Turnout was more than 80%. Observers said voting was largely peaceful with few isolated incidents. However, thousands of people who were denied voting rights, including minority Rohingya Muslims, raised concerns over the fairness of the poll. Excitement is high on the streets of Myanmar after the historic polls. Thousands of opposition supporters gathered at Suu Kyi's party headquarters, waving flags and chanting slogans. For them, Suu Kyi's NLD is expected to win a lion's share of the votes, even though Suu Kyi has been barred from presidency.
It's good feeling because I like the party. This is my choice. I put inside.
Aung San Suu Kyi's NLD promised to continue the reform processes.
Then we can go on to making our people know what our policies are. We will not reject anything simply because it has been a part of what this government has been doing. What we think is good will be kept, and what we do not think is good will be changed.
Over 6,000 candidates from more than 90 parties are in the fray for 664 seats in the parliament. 25% of seats are reserved for unelected military representatives who are expected to side with USDP. But all eyes are on the two frontrunners, Union Solidarity and Development Party and Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy. NLD must get 67% of all contested seats to gain a majority. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Now let's take a look at some of the sporting action in Sports Beat. Mumbai Cricket Association's curator Sudhir Naik withdrew his complaint against Indian team director Ravi Shastri. The so-called truce was brokered by MCA Vice President Dilip Vengsarkar. Naik had filed a complaint against Shastri that he abused him after South Africa piled up 438 runs in the fifth and the final ODI at Wankhede Stadium on 25th of October. Vengsarkar was appointed to inquire into the matter, and he heard the two former Indian players during a meeting and advised both Naik and Shastri to bury the matter, which he said was a result of misunderstanding between the two former Mumbai players. BCCI will hold its 85th annual general meeting in Mumbai to discuss the image makeover of the board and also on the future of N. Srinivasan's future and sweeping reforms to revive a board's battered image, including the appointment of an ombudsman, and former chief N. Srinivasan's future as ICC president will dominate the agenda of the meet. Sports Minister Sarbanand Sonowal assured full government cooperation to the World Football Governing Body and AIFF for a successful conduct of the U17 Football World Cup in India in 2017. FIFA on Sunday entrusted with India the right to host the third most important event on its calendar, the Under-17 World Cup in India in 2017, at the closing ceremony of the 16th Under-17 World Cup in Chile. World number 1 tennis player Novak Djokovic became the first man to win 6 Masters title in a calendar year by dismissing Andy Murray 6-2, 6-4 in Paris Masters. The Serbian won 3 of the 4 Grand Slam titles, Australian Open, Wimbledon and the US Open, and has already made sure that he will finish the 2015 as number 1 in the ATP rankings. That's all in this edition of News, but news and updates continue on your channel. Keep watching Rajya Sabha TV.